Hello, welcome back to Just Jamming Along. My name's Chris Chambers, and today I want to talk about why your guitar doesn't sound in tune. You've tuned it, you think it should be in tune, but for whatever reason it's not. And I'm not talking about the guitars going out of tune, that's a technical issue. I'll talk about that another day. But let's look at the common problems with your guitar not sounding in tune. Okay, so first up, let's just double check, is your guitar actually in tune? Get yourself, if you haven't got one already, a little digital clip-on tuner. They're great devices. If you don't have one, they're brilliant. Clip it on the headstock, turn it on, and tune your guitar to concert pitch. That brings me to my next point. Is your guitar tuned to concert pitch? Concert pitch basically means 440 Hertz, which is the note of A above middle C, and it's the international standard that we all tune our instruments to in Western music. However, some digital tuners will allow you to tune to something other than 440 Hertz. For example, 439 or 441 or whatever it might be. On this tuner here, I can detune 440 to something else. So if you've inadvertently got your tuner calibrated to the wrong frequency, then you'll be tuning to something other than concert pitch, which means that when you play along with another instrument, another musician, or to a jam track or whatever, then you'll sound out of tune. So make sure you're tuned to 440 Hertz. Okay, next up is the intonation of your guitar. So the intonation of your guitar, that means the ability of the guitar to be in tune with itself up and down the fretboard and across the strings. Now the intonation is really important. The intonation is set by making sure that the string length is correct relative to the scale length of your guitar and the spacings between the frets. And there's a little adjuster for each string normally at the bridge of the guitar. If they're not quite right, or the guitar is not set up correctly, then the intonation will be incorrect, which means that you might tune the guitar correctly in the open position, but as you work up the strings, up the fretboard, it will go out of tune. So get your guitar set up correctly. It is possible to do it yourself. On the other hand, you can also get your guitar set up for a relatively modest price. Make sure you then, if you do pay for a setup, then make sure that you, in the future, put the same gauge of strings on your guitar, and then hopefully that setup should last your guitar for some time. But make sure the intonation is correct. Is your technique correct? So your guitar might be in tune, you might have new strings and the intonation might be correct, tuned to 440, etc. But you might find that your technique is causing you to inadvertently bend the strings a little bit. So video record yourself, look at the way you're fretting the strings, make sure that you're not inadvertently bending those strings, or it might be that you're playing with a lot of tension and pressing the strings very hard. That can put the strings very slightly out of tune, so have a look at your technique. Okay, number 5 on my list is old strings. Okay, new strings are perfectly uniform, they resonate well and they behave in a predictable manner. Old strings are damaged, a little bit like a metal tube. If you've got a perfect shiny metal tube and you were to give it a tap with a hammer, it would probably make a nice ringing sound. If that tube is all damaged and dirty and so on, then when you tap it, it's not going to make a very nice sound. Also, the resonance is going to behave in an unpredictable way along its length. Exactly the same with the guitar strings. So with old strings, you might be able to tune the strings in the open position, but as you work up the fretboard, the strings are going to behave unpredictably. They're not going to resonate correctly, and you'll get tuning issues. So make sure you've got new strings on your guitar, or newish strings. Not quite so obvious. Your guitar now is in tune, new strings, 440 Hertz, and the intonation is correct, but the track that you're playing along to, you can't get in tune with it. It's really frustrating. So the problem here is probably not your guitar, not your technique. It's the fact that actually the track has been recorded not to 440 concert pitch. And it's not unusual at all for some older, especially older studio recordings. The reasons might be to do with the production techniques, it might be to do with tape recordings, it might be the tape slowed down, sped up, or whatever it might be, for various reasons, whether it might be deliberate reasons or inadvertent reasons. But what's happened is the recording is not at 440 Hertz. It might even be, of course, that the band turned up to the studio session, tuned to one instrument that was not at 440 Hertz, and then the rest of the band are not at 440, and then the recording is then set in stone, not at 440 hertz for whatever reason. Okay, so to get over this is a bit more challenging, this one. You can get software which will correct the pitch for you. You'd probably need sort of DAW, digital audio workstation software, whatever DAW of choice you want to use can probably do it. However, if it's a fairly common track that you're playing to, you'll probably find that other people have found the same problem, and somewhere on YouTube someone will have created an in-tune version of that track. So probably best just to find that and play along with that. Okay, I hope that's a useful video today that explains some common problems for your guitar sounding out of tune. Please subscribe. If you like this, then please comment. I'd love to hear what you've got to say. I might have missed things. There's obviously maybe other reasons as well, so add them to the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, thanks very much. Chris Chambers, just jamming along. Okay, one final point about intonation. You may find that actually you can't ever get your guitar perfectly in tune, and that's because of the rules of equal temperament. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about that today. It's too technical, but just Google it. Basically, because of the rules of equal temperament, your guitar can't be perfectly in tune at every fret. You should be able to get your guitar in tune in, for example, the open position, and then 1 octave above it at the 12th position, your guitar should be in tune as well if the intonation is correct. You might find you have some small variations at the frets in between. That's fine. Use your ear. Is the sound acceptable? Then if it is, things are fine. If you're finding, however, if you're using a digital tuner and things are not slightly right, if you try and tune at every fret, you'll be chasing it all day because it is unfortunately an imperfect instrument. Google it and you'll find out why.